Alright, I think the audio should be on now. Okay, I was actually like worried. There was a little bit of latency. How's it going, everyone? How's it going, Yumiko? Yes, I remember seeing some things in Manga Creators. It's a pretty good Facebook group. But yeah, we finally made it this far on the pages, on stream and everything. So I think it's been going well. We're a little bit past the halfway point, so I think that's awesome. We made it this far. So I think this panel is looking good. This page is looking decent. The thing I do want to kind of fix is like this panel. I want to make that a bit darker. I guess I missed that space right there a little bit. Yeah. Recently, sorry, I think I actually hit a key I wasn't supposed to hit. Recently I started using less tone. I started kind of using more grayscale instead, and I use tone very sparingly now. I think it kind of looks, or it has a more impactful look because now, or for me, because it's kind of like, since I'm not using it so much, you'll notice it when I do use it. So this panel right here, it's actually the only panel I've used it in this chapter. And I just thought, because this is such a, it's a moment type thing where I'm using it at this point. So since they finally broke the thing that they've been utilizing for several pages, I thought it would be a good moment to use some tone to kind of show a change is happening. Let me fill this one in here. You know, I don't often use it anymore. I used to always use it. The reason I stopped using tone so much is because things on like digital media, it would basically like, it would create this certain type of pattern that would be hard to look at. Yeah, no problem. And since it became hard to look at, I didn't like to look at my own work after I finished it. I didn't know if that feeling would go away after it was printed or not. So over time, I learned how to just use grayscale instead. I use around like 3 values. Helps me keep things simple and get work done. Now I can go ahead and darken this part over here. Let's see here. So I'm going to go ahead to that layer. Go ahead and grab this area. And of course, Clip Studio has to save. Alright. Actually going to make sure I do this on a different layer because I know I want to utilize these initial marks. That looks just fine. page overall is looking like this. I think that looks pretty cool. Yeah, how are you guys doing today? And Lee, you said you're learning more about drawing. How far along are you? How's that process been going for you? Hmm. Might be busy. Oh, thank you. Um, yeah, learning how to draw is a consistent process. It's very difficult. Manga is also kind of difficult as well, but it's more like I don't know if you have trouble with this, but one of the things I used to have trouble with is learning how to take instructional learning and applying it to comics was something that was difficult because a lot of books come out for everything except for comics. A lot of film have great instructional books, but if you don't know how to take that information and turn it into something that works for comics, it could be difficult to apply it to it. For example's sake, right? Let's say you have a compositional book, and it tells you how to make good compositions. You can go, okay, cool, I know how to make good compositions now. You have good examples to work with. But also, you have to think about word bubbles if you're applying it to comics. Um, Composition for film and things of that nature don't have to take that into consideration. But you do if you're working on comics and there's a script and there's plot and there's dialogue. You have to always make a little bit of extra space for word bubbles. So the only thing that can consistently be applied uh, when it comes to layout from like film is probably frames or panels that don't have dialogue in it. Those are the ones you don't have to modify to add space for dialogue. Stuff like that I have to always pay attention to. How long have you been drawing? Oh, okay. Hmm. I need to erase this here. It's a great question, Kai. Let's see here. I almost was about to erase that line, but I don't think I should clean it up too much. I think that it looks just fine. on this layer. We want to use this here. Grab this value. Yumiko, I don't know if you're still there, but how long have you been drawing? Okay. Yeah, because depending on how long you've been drawing, things could be a little bit easier. Kind of cleaning up some of the drawing here. Some of the selections I had done previously weren't as clean as I'd like them to be. So I'm just going to hurry up and go through and try to erase out some of the shapes. I'm not going to spend too long on it though, because we got to get more done on this page. Alright. Here's a little bit better. I think the last thing I'll probably change is this guy's arm, but I'm not going to bring too much attention to it right now. Looks kind of okay. Alright, so next we have all of this. And it seems I may have lost some of the line work that I put right here when I was cleaning up the page. I wasn't careful enough. So I'm going to have to put some more down there. I have to kind of use this as an example, the one that's below. I'll leave that grayscale. Go ahead and hit multiply. Use a tapered pen. And I think also to replicate this line work, I'm going to also try to pick the same value so I can get close to that same look. And since I'm on the same, well, I'm on a different type of layer, I can also kind of not have to worry about overlap or anything like that. I don't completely like that because I feel like the lines are too thin. So I'm going to try again. Okay, I'm going to turn this a little bit. Sorry if that's a bit jarring. And start trying to make the rest of these lines. Just a long time. Since you were a kid, you've been drawing? Awesome. You got interested in manga and digital art, but still learning. Not that good yet. Okay, that's pretty good. What types of things are you interested in drawing other than like comics? Like, do you have any like interest in like certain types of characters or locations, things of that nature? Hmm. It doesn't look comparable. It's not bad though, just not as comparable. I like to draw characters in my own methods and draw something unique in my own style. Oh, great. That's good to keep practice with. Um, yeah, I would say as long as you're consistently drawing, definitely things you're interested in, but also paying attention to even things that don't consistently interest you, you'll always keep improving. Um, and also, excuse me, also, um, learn even more ways to practice, I guess. Um, definitely when it comes to just outright drawing. I don't know exactly how far along you are in your process, and a lot of artists, we don't, we have our own like levels of like when we think something is not that good yet or something like that. So as you get better and better, your level, I assume, would grow, and you'll probably see something that you believe is quote unquote not that good yet could actually be good to some other artist, you know? But you gotta consistently practice, which you sound like you're already doing, so you're already doing a great job. Always find these random little mistakes that I make. To be honest, my only goal is to make an art that can also inspire others, same as manga, so that I can also teach other people, especially kids. Wow, that's really freaking cool. I also would love to teach people. When I was younger, I think my thought process was like, oh, I want to accomplish something and then teach people. Um, I still technically have that state of mind, but some of the things I used to want to accomplish aren't as important anymore. And also, I can teach while accomplishing. That's another important thing. But yeah, I think it's awesome that you want to also teach people, teach kids. the wrong value here. Now, the making the art that's inspiring other people is always the difficult thing because you never know exactly what people are going to be inspired by. And I think it's already an inspiring thing that, you make art that you feel like moves you to make, you know? If you can make art that you were moved to make in general, not just because you had a deadline or someone else wanted you to make it, but because you wanted to make it and it moves you to want to get up every morning and work on it, that's already inspirational. And if you take that experience and teach other people about it, and show and learn and teach and give that back to people and stuff, that's great. Oh, thank you. I'm going to try my best to keep doing what I'm doing and try to grow the channel as well so that more people can see this content, which is mainly just me working on any of my art and trying to share anything I can with people. I don't mind sharing any information that I've come across or learned along the way. Ah, I know what that is. That's the border. I don't need to worry about that. Okay, so with this one, I don't need to add too much to it. I do need to clean it up a bit though. Just a bit. Currently working on a book for my girlfriend who has kind of tough illness, and I'm gonna make it to manga. That's why I'm learning on how the novel works, just to make her happy. That's all I can do. Also, she's also an artist who inspires me. That's amazing. I think that's great. Um, yeah, if you need any help with any of that, I have I have some guidance or whatever I can give. I know some things about how the medium works, and I'm sure you've also done some research yourself. You sound pretty much driven to do what you're already talking about doing. Maybe there is too much. This guy's body looks a little odd here. I get the motion, but it looks a little odd. Okay, that's going to be intersecting there. Hey, how's it going, Tavon? Hmm. One sec. I get so freaking out in here. Temperature missile. Alright. Make sure that the chat is good. So what I'm trying to do is trying to make sure that I don't go overboard with like the details. I'm just checking things here and there. How can I get you to look where I want you to look? Okay, so panel here needs to go to the green. And in this panel, I'm going to use a gradation. I'm going to probably use a diagonal, something like this, except not like that dark. You can go ahead and cut and paste it. And I can essentially move the opacity. I can take the airbrush tool, essentially brush out this motion. Oh yeah, when it comes to using like tone on something like Clip Studio, you can take all the values you pick and use it and turn it into a tone as well. So I remember when I first started, I think tone was just difficult to see well on my monitor. So what I would do was I would just use grayscale first, and then I would just turn it into tone by clicking this button, and it just does that for you. You can have it set to 60. You can move this around and change it to something else. 85 is the highest it goes when it comes to the spacing, I would say, how close the tone is together, the density. But just can play around with that. I usually, well, right now I'm just sticking to grayscale. Okay, this guy's kick is high. I think I'm gonna leave these middle ones alone, except for like the top part. Alright, and go back to this one here. Gonna also use the gradation tool, or the gradient tool. It's always interesting when it swaps the way I'm not thinking that it will be. So yeah, wanted to do something like that. Makes me also wonder, should I instead invert it where, not invert, but change it where as though you're looking up first. Kind of have this guy kind of in darkness. Of course, I'm going to lighten that. Use the same tool setup. I wonder what that would look like. Gonna go ahead and go past that line because that's the cutoff mark. So it doesn't matter if I go past it or not. When it goes to the printer, essentially that's going to be chopped off. So it's a good part about being able to do that. So I was wondering if I would like flip it, because now your attention would be lower. That's the opposite of what I said. Let's go here and down, right? Right, exactly. And of course you can just go across it like this. I don't think it's that good, but it works. That's interesting. It actually looks like it got lighter there for a moment. Except it is on a, what is this, a multiply layer? Don't know if I like that completely. But I can always change it if I don't like it. Gonna go ahead and grab a different pen. This is the tapered pen. And erase out where his legs are moving, or the trails that lead to his legs. I'm definitely gonna lighten this. Go ahead and do the usual cut and paste. Change the opacity a bit. I already like that a lot more. Alright, and with this last, well, this one on the top row, I'm going to go ahead and use this to add in the, kind of like the speed lines. It's basically going to tell you what direction to look, or force you downward. So I'm going to have it whereas the bottom part should be lighter, The top part is just mainly going to be speed lines. I don't have a pin specifically for this at this point. This pin here. I was not using the right thing at all. Alright. And is that straight? Does that look straight? Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. Now I'm just going to erase the bottom area of it. I use the airbrush tool a lot. It's a really nice tool for me. Might be too much. That might be better. Okay. Am I using a Metabang? No. I'm using Clip Studio Paint EX. That is what I'm using at the moment. And actually, that works well enough. If I put too much detail on this panel all the way over here on the left with the kick coming downward here, you might get drawn to it too easily from going from the top panel at the top, instead of going directly over here. So I don't want to do that. So I'll leave it kind of less detailed there. That way you are drawn to the more inline angled shot. Kick already brings you to that side. Some of the perspective lines also bring you also towards that shot. Still think it might be a little bit too dark. Let me see. Is it this one? No, that's the shadows. So it's this one. Yeah, maybe 85 is better instead of completely 100% or something. So that's that, and that brings you to that side, and over there, get to the kick, go downward into the next shot over here. Now I'm looking at this face like, this is the odd part. I remember drawing this, and I thought that it was especially lined up where it exactly needed to be. And now I'm looking at it and like, this is not exactly where it needs to be. I wonder why it doesn't reach as far as I need it to. And then I'll go ahead and check and see the actual image. I'm looking at the actual pages, so I drew all this stuff by hand. And I see it does do exactly what it's showing. So I just have to replace all that stuff digitally. It's not that difficult. Go ahead and grab the value here, grab the layer, which is this one. Go ahead and grab my pen, and I'm just gonna I thought I was gonna do something. Wait a minute. Now I'm looking at the pen, looking at the layer, like, why isn't it making marks? Of course, it's still highlighted, of course. I always have to make sure that the selections are turned off. Alright, so we got kind of like the length of the hair. It's kind of in motion, so I have it going a little bit different directions other than the usual shape it takes. Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram or not, but I recently got I got a new book. It's called Framed Ink Part 2, and really happy to finally get that book because Framed Ink 1 was great, and I was thinking of doing a review of it, putting it on the channel eventually. So I think that'd be pretty cool for people to check out. And eventually, I want to do something where I do some content. I'll probably end up putting a small or the first video on like YouTube, and then the rest of the videos on Patreon. And what I'll be doing is going through each book, or mainly part 2. Well, actually, probably both books to some degree, right? I'll be using both books and kind of talking about what each one does and what they're trying to what it is that you want to use each book for, like what it is that you learn in those books and how to use that information. Definitely for comics. So I think that'd be good content to have, and I think it's a good idea. It's also a good practice for myself, and you guys can see the types of practices that I think of doing when I see those types of books. Also, the instructor who made those books does a great job. They're probably, they're a professional. They do this all the time, so they know exactly what they're talking about. The books are both not very long. I think they're about 120-ish pages long. They usually have a lot of good information in that span, and I recommend anyone to get Framed Ink Book 1 if you don't already own it. Like, if you don't have Framed Ink 1, there's a lot of good stuff in there to keep you on your toes when it comes to composition and things of that nature. Now, this person is speaking from a film and animation standpoint, but they also have worked on graphic novels, so that's something to take into account, or a graphic novel, so they know how comics work. But yeah, it's something to be mindful of because they have way more experience when it comes to doing uh, animation and movies, but it still applies to comics. They still address comics, so it's not skipped out on completely, so that's great. I've definitely used the book over the years to refresh myself with compositional knowledge and stuff like that, and shots. And even during like portfolio reviews, it's brought up, so I'm always happy I have the book because I know I need to like practice more. Hmm. Alright, I think that's looking pretty cool. I'm just doing small edits at this point, trying to make things a bit neater here and there. But I'm also making sure that I don't take things a bit too far, because I know a lot of this stuff could possibly not even be seen. You zoom in a little bit too much and then you'll find out that there's a threshold of things that no one's ever going to see unless they really zoom into your work. And that's actually always possible. A lot of people are reviewing work and stuff like that on their YouTube channels and stuff like that. So people sometimes zoom in, but I think for the most part, when you have artwork that's going to be compressed and printed smaller than what it's drawn on. Oh, I am getting a call. One moment. All right, I'm back. That was my mom. She wanted to ask me how long certain types of food could just stay in the freezer. I was like, okay, let me explain. But anyway, she's doing fine, so that's a good part. But let me see here. Where are we? Actually, Lee, I don't know if you're still here. Um, have you checked out MetaBang and do you like it? So I think I tried it out a little bit. I never really got too far into it. I ended up coming back to Clip Studio and just using that more over time. So I think I've seen a lot of little different, what do you call it, software for using like, for making like comics and stuff like that. That's been coming out over the years. And I think Clip Studio has kind of done a great job with like consistently uh, just creating tools that are actually really usable for the consumer. think a lot of people still use the Adobe products, and I don't fault them for that. I think that's great. Actually, I don't fault anyone for using any type of tool as long as it works, you know, whatever works for you. I've just been mainly using Clip Studio, but I'm not a fully, completely digital artist at all. I'm always on this this hybrid process, so that I can always end up having some of my original saved over from my process. It just feels more natural to me to do that. Kind of keeps my morale a bit more higher than doing something completely digital. Alright, cool. I think this is mainly done. Don't think I want to add too much more to it. And of course, that's not the same exact value. So I'm going to go ahead and select the value one. And it's more like that. Alright, I think these two pages look just fine. Now we can go ahead and start some other of these. Alright, cool. We got 16 and 17 right here. Let's get them started. I don't know if anyone's been subscribed to me or anything yet, but if you haven't, I'll show you guys my process for how I usually like go ahead and scan, well, not scan, but go ahead and clean up the pages that I did scan. I don't think it's that crazy, but I utilize a certain amount of tools. So the first thing I'm about to do is try and get rid of all this stuff I did as far as the preliminary sketches and stuff went. So go ahead and make a new folder. Click off of that folder and click every single layer and check mark it. It's the box right next to the eyeball. And now that I have all that highlighted and selected, go ahead and drop all that into the folder. And close the folder and turn the eye off, because I don't need any of that. Maybe I'll turn it on when I need to line up the pages once I put them on the template. But for right now, I don't need that. Go ahead and try and import pages. Alright, so we just did those other two after the kick, so we're on page 16 and 17. So here we go. This is our right page. So I usually talk about them and say they are. You can also go ahead and, I don't know what this this exact setting is, but every time I import something, it has like tone on it. Like you can, like it's like, I think it imagines that you're trying to import something that you want to use as like tone. I think that's cool, but I don't want to use that, so I'm gonna turn that off. It's pretty easy. I'm gonna flip on this switch to see where exactly, not that one, wait, oh right, it's not. So we're gonna turn this on multiply. Now you'll be able to see through it. Okay, and we can see exactly how that's gonna fit. So I can move it over. It goes exactly to the edge, it looks like, on the bottom portion. And let's see, is this bigger or smaller? Looks like it's smaller, right? Go ahead and match that up. And that's all I have to do to make sure that's exactly where it's supposed to be. Right? Now I'm going to go ahead and import the other page, which is page 17. Go ahead and move it over. I don't even think I need any help with this one, though I will probably turn it on to make sure. Go ahead and turn off the tone again, flip the switch after turning it into a multiply layer. Alright, so we can see it now on the right layer. Okay, so we gotta make this one a bit smaller. Seems like something's a little off, but not too much off. Okay, that's pretty much lined up right there. Turn the switch off. Cool. Now we have everything exactly where we need it to be on this page template. Go ahead and rasterize these. Go ahead and turn this joint color so I don't have to even think about it. Usually make my line work layers blue. It's my original line work. Okay, so now we have the, what happens next in the whole sequence and everything like that. So now, before we get too far, I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning the page. So this is the process I was speaking about. So all I do is go over to edit, go ahead and turn on convert brightness to opacity. Usually turn that on. So basically now I have a little checkerboard here because I got rid of all the white in the image in the background of it, turned it and got rid of it. And basically if I turn off the white of the page, okay, I clicked the wrong image. Okay, cool. Okay. Well, as you can see on the left hand side, on the left hand side we have this technique going on. I clicked the wrong one. That's cool. You can see it though. I'll do the same over here for this page. And we'll go ahead and convert the brightness to opacity, and that'll also happen there. So now all we have is our initial marks on the paper. Right? So I'll turn the page layer back on so you can see the paper color. But now we only have our initial marks and lines on the paper, which makes it really easy to clean. And I'm going to show you guys how that really works. I usually pick a color that's a little lighter. You can tell it's a color, but it's a light value of that color. And I'll just go ahead and I'll click page 16, which page we're looking at right now. I'll go ahead and click border effect, right? Which usually I would use if I was like typing a sound effect or something, and I needed that to kind of pop out on the page, like overlap wise. So you usually use outline effect for that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn that on for this page and its line work. And I'm going to color it by using a set edge color of the outline. So I'm going to click that into that purple that we picked earlier. And now I'm going to pick the thickness. I'm going to pull it up to about like 10-ish or more, 20. Now we can see those little dots right there. Go ahead over to this dustpan looking tool, which is basically it's called the garbage cleaner. That's a good one. I should rename it the dustpan. And basically I set that to like 40 something. Usually it's at like 35. I just go across the areas where I know that it's supposed to be just white, and I just get rid of those specks. And yeah, it's basically how I usually clean my pages. I have to be a little bit careful on areas like faces and when it comes to like small drawings, because you could easily get rid of some of the details. But that's the reason why I pick such a lighter value, because now I can tell if I get this close, right? I can tell that if there's no dark mark in the middle of these circles, that means that they weren't intentional. They weren't intentional marks that I made. But if there is a dark mark in there, it might mean that I wanted to add a debris effect. So I want to keep that mark. So that's usually how I go about doing it. This usually doesn't even take that long. Luckily, I think I did a okay job cleaning it by hand. At this point, I'm using a kneaded eraser to clean my drawings. Oh yeah, and you probably can tell, but none of this stuff is actually inked. Most of this stuff completely is just pencil. Took me a little while to get the confidence levels to even try that, but I knew I could do it at that point, and I knew that I had like the tools and the understanding to do it. So I just went ahead and accepted that I was going to do it and did it. Alright, so for the most part, this is pretty clean already. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but using a kneaded eraser is better than using a usual eraser, like the regular plastic joint, because if you're doing pencil, right? If you're doing pencil, you don't want to go back over your lines after you erase because you might smudge it. And kneaded eraser doesn't leave shavings. It kind of just pulls the graphite right off the paper and onto the kneaded eraser. So it doesn't leave any debris that you'll have to end up wiping off. Like imagine cleaning some of the graphite off of the page that when you make a mistake, and then wiping the shaving and then creating a smear mark. So you go ahead and erase and get rid of the smear, and then you wipe again and you create another smear. It would not be fun. Yeah. Okay, we're almost done with this page. All these specks in this guy's freaking hair. It's like this guy's hair is completely like a light value on the paper. Like I didn't have to fill in any lines. It's always funny when something like that gets really dusty or something. Alright, cool. Now we zoom out. We can kind of see exactly what all our line work is. So we know it's pretty dang on clean. You see here, did I get his face correctly? His face looks fine. Good. Go ahead and turn the effect off here. There we go. Now we can start on this page. Yeah, today I tried to start stream a little bit earlier so that, uh, so that people wouldn't have to wait too long to check it out. And I know sometimes, I assume definitely 9 o'clock doesn't always work for some people. So I was like, okay, maybe if I start a little bit earlier, that could be cool for some people. I'm glad you guys were able to come through and check it out. So I might actually end up usually doing that a little bit more often. Kind of maybe starting a little bit like 15 to 20 minutes earlier at least. See if I can push it, get it a little bit earlier. Might work better for some people. Alright, that's looking pretty clean there. So I'm looking at the line work, and I know good and well that I didn't put a lot of marks there, so I just went ahead and went across the whole thing. No need to be too careful with that one. And are we good here? Good, yes. Turn that off. Cool. Now we have line work that is easily able to be selected and filled in with all types of effects if we choose to add that. Alright, so let's get started. So here we have Halo over here. His leg has come down completely and he's cracking the ground. Now for some reason I didn't fill in this little part on his shoulder at all, so I have to do that. And actually, I'll do two of those. So I don't get too confused, but I need to add that there, and then go ahead and start filling in value range for skin tone and hair and stuff like that. It's literally all I wanted to do. Alright, so then go ahead and start doing the lighter value here. Clip Studio saving. Clip Studio is kind of awesome. Sadly, I'm only using MetaBang or Jump Paint software. Oh, that sucks. I mean, if you like it, that's awesome regardless, Um, I've been using this software probably since before they were calling it Clip Studio. I think there was some sort of problem with calling it that. Like, I don't know what happened. I know in Japan, I believe the software is called Comic Studio. Um, but I've been using it since it was called Manga Studio. And I guess for some reason it wasn't a good name anymore, so they just said no, stop using that name, and turned it into Clip Studio. But whoa. But yeah, I think a lot of the software out there these days are really good. What am I doing? I think they're all really good actually. I think Jump Paint is probably made by MetaBang, and Jump kind of, probably asked them to make the software for them. I think the best thing about Jump Paint, because I got to utilize it for a little bit, was that it actually has some tips in there from like certain mangaka, and those tips are pretty cool. And then they also have set page formats. I think the main reason why Clip is a great software is that unlike a lot of, I would say, Adobe software and stuff like that, it feels like there's no point in creating a next part to it. The reason I say that there's no real reason in creating a new part to Clip Studio, like when I was using Manga Studio, when it was like Manga Studio EX5, and then Manga Studio EX5 turned into Clip Studio. There's no reason for there to be a part 6 because you can just you can upload your own brushes to like the marketplace and sell them, or download free brushes on there. Um, it's brushes, materials, uh, what is it? The format in which your workstation, like how all this stuff on the screen is set up right now that you guys see, and it's like surrounding the picture. You can just create that stuff for people and put it up, and people can download it and use it. And I'm like, I have no idea what you'd be able to do in the next version of Clip Studio that would make it worth buying again. You know, there's so much you can do. That's one of the main reasons I use it. The other reasons is that you can create PDFs now finally on the desktop version and the mobile version, and that's always great being able to have that option. So I definitely want to eventually get more stuff out there, and creating really decent quality PDFs from the application that I use to work on that work is great. So basically, my real answer is convenience, right? There's a lot of little things that I want to do later that it conveniently also has access to already. The other applications are also great. They also offer a lot. It's awesome that we have free programs to use at all to be able to help us in the process of kind of realizing some of our goals when it comes to comics. I think some people might think that comics are a bit easier, and they can be, but they also can be pretty dang on complicated as well. The more I use this bucket tool, I really enjoy the shapes that show up for me, like outlining uh, certain facial features and stuff like that. And I think the reason why is like uh, having to use like tone or grayscale to kind of create like the skin tone for characters and stuff, like in a comic. You're like, okay, like either I'm going to do this painterly or I'm going to use shape language, right? That's how my brain works. And if you try to do it painterly, it's going to take you a certain amount of extra time. That's fine if that is what you want to do. Um, but if you block it out, it's easier to fill it with a bucket tool when you get on the computer, because you've kind of sectioned off exactly where you want things to be. Um, and I think because I'm starting to play around with like the planes of the face more, that it looks cool to me, because when I leave a little bit uh, and unfilled in, it looks like it's getting hit by a light source. That just looks cool to me. See Tavon? He's making more of an expression over here. He's really trying to hit him now. I remember you brought that up the other day. You were talking about on the previous page. This character on the right hand side, Makeem, wasn't making enough of a facial expression. And I agreed. And I also was saying that on the next page he does. But if he was actually trying very hard on the previous page, he would have really hurt the main character. And main character's kind of being a goofball, though he looks a little bit menacing to some degree. In those panels or whatever, that's kind of the mood for it. But yeah, trying to delve into some of their personalities. Alright, so I think I got the most of that. What I usually do also is, I don't know if it's going to work this time, but I'm going to do it anyway. When I fill an area, like I've done, to make sure I've really filled the area completely, what I usually do is I go ahead and select the whole entire, everything that I've put down on that layer, and I go ahead and select expand the layer, like expand the selection area, right? And then because I've done that, because I've expanded it, I make sure that the areas where the bucket tool, because sometimes when you use the bucket tool in Clip Studio, it misses by like a few pixels sometimes, unfortunately. So I always have to do that to kind of like give it that extra fill ability. And I'm probably going to obviously go back with like a pen and make sure it's even better of a fill job. So go ahead and select everything here. Expand. I'm going to actually expand it by like 4 instead of 2 this time. Now it's like that wide. I'm going to fill it. So I still have little spaces left over, but it still is better. Really happy about consistently using pencil right now, honestly. There's a certain level of emotion or expression I was able to retain in my art this time. And I think it's just the fact that like you can make a very tight pencil drawing and it'll still have life in it because it's not as robotic feeling, I guess. Like you can even do a pencil drawing that's done with a mechanical pencil that's supposed to consistently have the same width with the point that you're using, and it'll still have more life in it than something that you tried to do that with on digital, because on digital there is no room for error or I guess nuance when it comes to that size. You will consistently draw with that size no matter what. Like if you pick a pencil or a pen on digital and you say I want this pen to be a certain amount of millimeters and wide, you're not going to get a variation where your hand can, draw really lightly. I mean, you can make one like that, right? But it still has that feeling of automation to it. But when you have it by hand, it just there's a certain amount of more character you get in it because it allows for more, I guess, mistakes or mishaps here and there. And I feel like digital allows that too. It's just that you can you can noodle, right? You can just keep noodling a drawing forever in digital. And since you can keep editing, it almost feels like, why would I ever leave a mistake on my art? You know, why would I ever leave one? You know, you're like, man, I can change everything. I can zoom in. You know how far you can zoom in on a picture? Like this is 25%, right? Like this is 25% zoomed in right now. Like which means you're only seeing, you know, that percent of the 100% of how close you could actually get to this image. This is like 100% right here, right? You can see all of this, right? You see like the grain from the pencil and everything. And it still looks cool to me at that point. But basically, being able to get this close to your art means that you have no excuse if you didn't want to fix all the mistakes you possibly could see. But then you'd never get really much done. You'd always be consistently going over every bad thing you ever did on that piece of paper. And you might not ever finish anything. You might not ever put anything out. And that's not good because that doesn't help you do anything. You might have one or two amazing pieces, right? You're like, wow, look what I created. This thing is like flawless, right? Quote unquote, right? And then you look at it like, I don't know, a year later and realize actually it just had really clean line work. The proportions were off, or shape language was inconsistent. You'll just start finding mistakes because over time your eyes are going to get better and your hands have to catch up to what they notice, what they choose to notice that you could be doing better. So it's like no reason to be that perfect. Some of our favorite artists have been drawing forever, right? They've been drawing for so freaking long. A lot of people also struggle with something called style. You know, a lot of our favorite artists not only have a style, but they've been showing us their style for so long. Would you even know what Naruto style was if you didn't probably see, I don't know, that it had over 200 plus episodes or even 700, it has 700 chapters, right? If you did 700 chapters, people would probably notice your style too. If you were consistent enough, you probably can't really see that you have a style yet, or maybe you don't like it, right? That's cool. Some people don't even realize that they have one just because like they haven't produced enough with it, I would say. But if you get close enough to anyone's art, you'll see imperfections. And the less imperfections you see, it's just a testament to how long they've been in the headspace that they're in, producing the work that they want to produce. I really like that shot. I think she looks cool. Let's go ahead and do the other one. Actually, let me make sure that's a bit consistent, right? Let's go in that direction. Okay. I'm making sure that I'm kind of playing around with these shapes that are on top of each other here. Alright. Slight turn, slight movement, of course. So I don't have to be doing the same exact angle since there is movement, so that would change the direction of the lighting going on her, the emblem on her head. And since the action seems to be slowing down, what I'm going to also try and do is, I don't know if you guys saw the previous pages. Let me go ahead and save. But the previous pages, I don't know what I would call it, but you guys know how, if you've seen One Punch Man, or yeah, mainly One Punch Man, if you've seen One Punch Man, how the quality of the, I would say the lighting goes up when they're in a fight scene or whatever. It goes from looking rather consistently simplistic, it's like simple, and then it gets really crazy with the lighting and the values and stuff like that, and the effects, right? It's almost like he's creating a Sakuga effect, but it's in a comic form, right? I try to play around with that type of thing too, except I try to not go too hard with it because it might be a little bit much, but I try to be consistent with it until it's not necessary. So right now, since the action is slowing down, I too, story-wise, am ramping down the action, right? So technically, everything should ramp a little bit up in these last, I would say, 1, 2, 3 panels, right? We got we got our explosion of an action here. We got multiple hits and strikes in the second panel. We have our we have anticipation right here, and then we have our follow through essentially, and then we slowing down on here. So the last few panels on the left hand page, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are going to be uh, less dramatic, i.e. less visually dramatic as well. So I'm not going to be going crazy with all the visual stuff because I don't need to. Story doesn't call for it. Alright, let me get something to drink. Often forget to get something to drink. Hope you guys are remembering to stay hydrated. Alright, so I know that it's going to have a sound effect on the side here, which I'm going to do digitally, but I'll do it later. I don't want to focus on that right now. So we want this page here, or this panel here, to pop, and basically it's the aftermath. In the page beforehand, we have Halo's kick coming down in like this panel mainly right here, it's getting closer to the ground, it's in motion, and then you see him having this crazy little expression here, and then his foot finally hits the ground there. and it creates this cracking ground effect. Hakeem gets out of the way in time. He had already dodged it, but his foot was still coming down. On the right layer? Yeah. So now I'm going to create a green layer, which is what I usually identify my background layers with. Some people like to organize their layers with just naming them. I try to keep my usage of layers to a certain minimum, even though it could get a little much, right? It could end up being something close to 20 layers on a file sometimes, but I'm identifying them mainly with color. I don't have to go, oh, this is the background or something. Like the color tells me it's the background. And I just keep things together that way. So go gray. And I'm usually always using like multiply layers instead of normal layers, like after the line work and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and select everything here. I think in Photoshop, this tool is called the Magic Wand tool because I still am stuck calling it that, but it's called the Auto Select tool. Pretty cool. Okay, so we're going to miss a few things here and there. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and select a different value. So this is what we get here. Let me go ahead and add to the selection. Oh yeah, yesterday I was also speaking about kind of been getting more confidence in my art. I think when I first started this comic and previous comics, I relied too much on values. I couldn't figure out how to keep a certain level of detail in my line work after it was like inked. I think I kind of killed some of the energy. So I was like, okay, well, the only way to deal with this problem is to use values to control where people look. And I think it worked well, but I think that I was overworking some of the pages. I think that it looked really nice and stuff, but line work wise, it could have been better, and I didn't know how to fix it completely. But the only real thing I could do was just keep going forward, right? And keep drawing and keep practicing. You can only do what you can do at that time. And for the longest time, I think it took me about 3 to 4 chapters after chapter 1, whereas though I kind of weaned myself off of needing so much tone and value that I could direct the eye with mainly just my line work, and I was able to finally stop using so much value, which means that I was producing work that was higher than my consistent skill level, and it actually it was kind of like producing the best work you ever made, but then having to try and keep consistently catching up to it when it was a little bit unnecessary. So once my skill level got to a certain, got better, I was like, okay, I can pull back with that certain level and use it when I need to use it for important moments. That way that quality is still there to like not necessarily my art but my storytelling because it's a comic book, and I can use it when it makes sense to do that. Alright, so we have that stuff highlighted. Now all I have to do is figure out what little effect I'm going to have. Actually, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and see, this should have actually had a different value to it. So let's try this again. I'm going to use a lighter value here. Click OK. That there. Now I'm going to grab one of these tools here. I always like this tool. Or gauze, I think is what you would pronounce that as. Let's see, it's a bit too much. And I think you can play with the density of that though. You can like turn that down with this brush. I think it still looks odd. Maybe it's too big as well. Maybe, yep, makes the pattern too big. Okay, so now, see what this looks like. That's fine. So I got the initial thing there. I'm going to play around with that a bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab a pen tool. I'll probably use, what is this, what happened to that other one? Yeah, this is this one. I'm going to turn it and make it smaller. And some of these cracks I'm going to just cut right next to them, kind of erase next to them. What I'm doing is, sorry if I sound a little bit closer or louder. What I'm doing is I'm picking the side where the sun would shine from the direction, which is the top. Picking that, and I'm going against that line because that realistically makes sense. There's a crack. You could have a light source right there. Okay, and since those other ones are further away, I'm going to leave those alone. And yeah, if we pull back a little bit, it just adds a little bit of extra dimensionality to it, I think. Okay. Now I'm going to grab the usual well, it's this new tool that I really love now, and it's just really fun to use, honestly. That's that's all I can mainly say. I'm using it for extra detail and things of that nature, but like being real, like it's just fun to use. If you press soft on it, you get these nice subtle things here. It's not hard to do, and you can blend with it, I believe. You can like go over everything you put down, and if you put if you do like a softer stroke on it, I guess, it'll soften on top of the one you place down. If you go harder on it, it gets darker there. It also seems to pick up the color or value, I guess color, right? Picks up the color that you stroke in the direction from. Like if there's white right here, like it is, right? Let me see. I press harder on this, right? If I start from the white area and brush into the gray here, it's gonna pick up that white pigment or color and force it into that. It gets lighter there. Definitely if I apply this softly to it. And I think that's really interesting. It makes this brush just really fun to use. Alright, so we've had a little bit of fun adding a little bit of values to these dusts that have popped up here, and I'm going to add a little bit more. Seems that I missed some areas here and there. See, the cool thing is I think that it would make sense for this to be a let me see here. If I grab white, you can take this brush probably and start. Well, I guess you. Oh wait, I have the selection on. What am I doing? So you can kind of start carving into some different things. Again, this is a gray. Just put that on color. What does that look like to do? Nothing because it's soft. Okay. I think we have a stronger one here. Yes. So what I want to also do is put something here. I think that looks cool. Do the same thing here. And since this is all on its own layer, we can kind of erase away when we need to. Yeah, that looks freaking cool. Actually, we can extend off of this. So yeah, I think this is looking cool. Got like this, kind of like this circle thing going on. Clean that up, but only from one side. Alright, that's what that's looking like. And we still have to go back to this layer and erase out this other thing, or these other, what is it, one right there? Yeah. That's way too big. Alright. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to add a little shadow, kind of like underneath of the effect that I have there. So I'm going to show you. Double tap, aren't you working? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab G pen again. This one is smooth. It's not the real G pen, it's just G pen. Actually, let me see here. If I go to this one, which isn't too bad, and I grab the, what is it called? The Lasso Fill. Could I just use that? That could be cool. Let me see here. See if I can erase some of that away. Move back a bit. Alright, cool. With just that bit of contrast there, our mind or our eyes kind of just stay focused mainly on that. I also see that if he's using that leg in particular, then we can also add in that sort of effect. So it automatically gets a more graphic read, right? Nowhere else to really want to look, but also to help make sure that it gets that read. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that they stay there And I know the sound effect that I'm going to add is going to draw you right down, but I'm going to make sure your eye doesn't wander to this extra amount of space I have over here on the side by just using something that creates a focal point that just keeps you exactly where I want you to be. I need to make sure it's not so harsh though, so I'll make sure it's gray. Going to use ruler, radial line, put this joint right on the foot, and then go ahead and click this joint here. It's always a bit much. Always wonder, wouldn't it be better? Would it be better if I did like that? And could I possibly make it like as big as I want? Could I distort it? I probably could. I probably could. I'm gonna try that actually. That could be fun. And we're going to I don't know why, but that almost feels like it's a rippling effect. I don't necessarily like it either. It's okay. I feel like it's not where I need it to be. Maybe it's because the brush size is too small. So if I made it like 10, how would that look? Obviously that's not what I'm looking for. Try to make it a little bigger. And what do we get? Alright, cool. Nice to know. We've made the brush size a little bit too big. So I think the first one we had was about a 3. Gonna make that a 5. Alright, good to know. Good to know we're not using we're not using you. Wait a minute. That looks nice. Okay. What up? Alright. That So you're telling me that I probably could hold down shift and make it into a perfect circle? Because let me see. Okay, that is true. So if that's the case, can do something like this. Swear I just did that. Try it again. Actually, it might be better if it's an oval, since I think the one I have on the ground is kind of like that. Yeah, maybe so. I feel like the angle's a bit off. Something like this, maybe? Really trying to expand this thing a certain way. Okay, now what if I do this? It's at 40%, and I use one of my favorite tools to just erase the middle. And of course, I have that on. So let me see. Go ahead and turn off this ruler here. Okay, does that save? What does that look like if I turn that up? part of me likes that a lot. I'm using stronger. Of course that's not going to work right. This soft. And am I even erasing? Okay, I am. I want to cover all the work that I had done. I feel like I'm also missing a lot of the stuff in the foreground I had done. I don't need all of this, just need a bit of it. Okay, so that keeps us looking exactly where we need to look. I like that. Undo that. Cool. It's been 2 hours and 10 minutes. Nice. And what time is it? Almost 11. You guys still here with me? Nice. I like the panel a lot. So the next panel is definitely something where I'll be using speed lines, right? To just guide your eye from one direction to the next. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be anything too crazy. I think what I'll end up doing, right, is I'm going to, so we have a, sorry, we have a, sorry, I'm just noticing things now. I'm like, wait a minute, I could also add a ground shadow, because why wouldn't I add a ground shadow? What's happening? And we're gonna do that. I'm gonna use the lasso tool, and I'm just gonna make like an ovalish shape, and even if it's like that, it'll still work. Right? Because even if it's like that, it still works, as long as you can tell that it's a ground shadow. I guess right there you wouldn't be able to tell. Let me see, can I grab a slightly darker? Don't like that completely. Just because it just takes too much attention away. I'll come back to that. Halo has his ground shadow, so that's good. So what I'm going to do now is actually thinking of going to this here and erasing out these lines here. Actually, rather do it with the soft, so I can cheat a bit and force your eye into this panel. And and then I'll take that and use it to guide you from my keying all the way up here. So I'm going to go ahead and start selecting the background now. I'm going to relatively leave this light, the background. What I am going to do is by selecting this area, I'm going to be able to, put in the necessary things I think should go there, like the speed lines or whatever. And then once those are there, I will, I'm going to basically make those sparks pop a little bit. I'll show you what I mean. Just going to use this, make that to a green layer. Let's make sure that I have everything selected by just filling it. Oh, missed right there. And we missed above the head here, over here. Okay. I know no one cares that this is getting that close for no reason. Alright. And yeah, we gotta fill those. Gonna expand that selection area. Oh wait, is that another area right there? Alright, so I think we did a good job with that. Those selections, go ahead and expand it. Not by 4, but by 2. And then fill it again. Cool. Now what I can do is turn this layer off. Go ahead and put that there. Don't really need that on normal. And now what I'm going to do is grab a pen. Actually, yeah, I'm going to grab this pen here. And I'm just going to expand it a bit. Let's see what it looks like first. We can make that even bigger. Oh, we cannot make that bigger. That's fine. See, it almost works actually. Almost. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is, since I have that there, actually I'm going to undo that. Try it again. Angle is going to be something like this. And then what I'm going to do is take the transform tool. I'm going to go ahead and go to free transform. And now I'm going to manipulate this a bit more. Oh, see, that's why it's not a good option. Cancel. Let's go to undo. So I basically have to force this to fit the shape completely. I won't be able to actually do the thing that I want to do. Maybe that works. Maybe I'm a little too much into it. Okay. So what I'm going to do, at least, is make that a bit like around 50, so that the character art stands out on top of it well enough. And now what I'll do is I'll go inside of each little hit spark, and I'm going to add just a little bit of gray to kind of help pop it out a little bit more. let's see here. So I'm gonna grab this. Grab this one tool and start to apply those things. It just adds extra amount of contrast. Is that all of them? Basically? Oh, wow, I jumped right past that. And I'm actually going to be going ahead and adding sound effects to this stuff a bit later. But yeah, this is mainly the stuff I'm going to be doing on today's stream. Didn't want the stream to be too long. But yeah, I feel like you guys are probably working on your own projects right now, which is probably why you guys aren't talking as much, and that's great. But yeah, I'm gonna be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. I hope you guys will join me and draw along and chat, hang out. We're almost through this entire chapter, and I'm really excited to see what we can make the next few pages into. I think that'll be really cool. Yeah, I like these last two panels we worked on here. I think they look pretty darn cool. Let me see here if I can move this out of the way, get a better look at everything. I don't think we can get a better look than that at the moment. Oh, okay, we might be able to zoom in a little bit more. That might be a little bit too close. Right? Go this. Okay. But yeah, thanks guys for joining me today. I'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. I might even, well, I will start starting the stream earlier if I'm able to. So if you guys want to join, that would be cool. If you guys join, I'll go ahead and unmute myself. But usually when I start the stream early, I'm probably going to be sharing the link around to some of the sites that, people frequent and check out comic content and things of that nature. So, obviously if I see you guys in chat, I'm going to unmute and talk to you guys. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. It's been awesome. You guys get some rest.